Cortana using British slang in this one cutscene always threw me off.
That is absolutely unacceptable.
Sod off.
Sod off. What are you talking about? Halo is my favorite game series of all time, and I've talked about it a lot on this channel, but outside of a couple minutes of my Bungie video, I've never really delved into the game that started it all. Halo Combat Evolved, or Halo CE. And rather than doing a typical give a story synopsis while going level by level, I wanted to do something a bit different and instead focus on one of the recurring elements of Halo CE that I think played a huge role in its success. Mystery. No, not the mystery achievement from the Master Chief Collection, but the experience of learning about the Halo universe and the Ring World and the Flood, things that you don't know about as a first-time player in advance, or hopefully not anyway, and you uncover throughout the course of the game. Now, if you're like me and you played Halo since you were a kid, this is something that I think wears off over time, but at the same time, I don't think the wow factor that comes for new players as they journey across Halo should just be blown off. So that's what this video is going to be. I'm going to talk about Halo in the sense of mystery you feel as a new player, what I thought as a kid playing it for the first time, and what I'm sure y'all watching this can also relate to. Halo CE starts off pretty straightforward. You're on a ship, it's the future, and there are aliens after you. They don't say it explicitly, but you do learn that the game is called Halo not because the green cyborg man's name is John Halo, but because there's a giant ring floating in outer space. You fight through Covenant borders, get into a life pod, and land on Halo. Well, crash land on Halo and everyone except the one guy not wearing a seatbelt dies. I joke about that, but being the only one alive and being by yourself when you first step out onto the ring was absolutely the correct decision. You go from being in the linear Pillar of Autumn and its confined corridors to a wide open alien environment where you don't know what to expect. It's a beautiful environment, even over 21 years after its release. It's cool to look to your left or your right or above and see the rest of the ring as you walk on it, checking out the trees, rocks, and waterfall. Prior to landing, you don't know what's coming, and once you do land, it's an environment you want to explore and learn about. Cortana starts telling you about the ring's diverse ecosystem, which is strange for an artificial world to even have, but suddenly a Covenant dropship appears looking for survivors, and you realize you have to move, so you venture across the bridge. After fighting a couple of Banshees and a Covenant squad, you turn a corner and see Marines holed up in a structure, fighting off Covenant, so you help them out until evac can show up.
Thank God, Master Chief. I thought we were in real trouble.
Hello there.
Echo 419 shows up and gives you a Warthog, and you're free to drive around this new environment. You start by making your way through what could easily be mistaken for a naturally formed cave, which again, this is a really cool interior, and making your way through it for the first time has you on the edge of your seat, wondering what's coming up next. After coming out the other side, you enter the only real free roam section of the game. There are Marines scattered around the area, and it's up to you to find them and save them. There's one group inside of a structure by a cliff, one group on top of a hill overlooking another structure, and one more group hiding in a bunch of rocks. You can go to each group in whatever order you want, it's up to you. I would always get completely lost here as a kid, but it was still one of my favorite sections. As the first level on the Halo ring, it's a brilliant introduction to Halo and really fuels the sense of discovery you should feel when first seeing something like a ring world. It's mentioned during the mission by Cortana that the crew left on the Pillar of Autumn after its crash on the ring were captured, and after saving the last group of Marines, Cortana tells you she's found Captain Keyes. This sets up the next mission, Truth and Reconciliation, hereby referred to as T&R. T&R shows a couple things. Well, at least in terms of story. In gameplay, it introduces hunters, stealth elites, gold elites, active camo, and although the sniper appears in the previous level, it's the first real sniper mission where you are pretty much reliant on it on higher difficulties. As far as the story and setting goes, it establishes early on one of the benefits of having your game take place on an artificial ring world. And Bungie had free reign to set levels in whatever environments they wanted to. You go from a summertime valley to a desert plateau to a tropical island to a snowy canyon to a swamp. Unfortunately, the second half of the game doesn't have the same level of variety, but still. In terms of gameplay, this obviously just makes levels more interesting, but it also helps further establish the alien feeling of the ring and not knowing what to expect. T&R also has an exposition dump where you learn that the ring is called Halo and that it's actually a weapon. For now, you don't know any more details than that, but it does suddenly raise the stakes. You need to gain control over Halo before the Covenant do. From here, you escort Keyes to the hangar where he flies a Covenant dropship and rams a couple of hunters in a sequence that I did not understand until I heard Joe Staten say what happened during the developer commentary, and you go to the Silent Cartographer. Silent Cartographer is probably the most beloved mission from the entire game, and the beach fight is one of the most iconic encounters in the whole series, but in terms of story, it just moves things forward rather than revealing anything major. You're looking for a map room that will tell you where Halo's control center is, while Captain Keyes goes off and finds a weapon cache. You find the map room, take a Pelican through a giant manhole, and then you start Assault in the control room. I ranked Assault in the control room around the middle of my list in the last video, but I do think it's a great mission, albeit with repetitive level design. Again, the Snowy Canyon is a new environment, the vehicle sections are great, and I still still like fighting the Covenant in the corridors too, repeat it or not. But at this point in the game, you feel like you got it. They're aliens, you shoot them, the ring you're on is a weapon of some kind, everything makes sense and you feel comfortable. Then the closing cutscene happens. You reach the control room, put Cortana into the computer, and Master Chief asks her how they can use Halo against the Covenant. But Cortana starts saying that the Covenant are fools and unleash something horrible, and the weapons cache Captain Keyes was going to wasn't actually a weapons cache and you need to stop him. This takes you to 343 Guilty Spark in the swamp, and all of a sudden Halo turns into a horror game. Completely unexpectedly, you go from epic sci-fi space action in the first 5 levels, which is only what the game was advertised as and what it's still known for, to being in a dark swamp with creepy atmosphere that you can just feel right from the opening cutscene when you see jackals and grunts running away from something. There's a crashed pelican that plays a distress signal on repeat. There's a lot of static, but you can make out a couple points. They were attacked by something that isn't Covenant that was hiding inside of a structure in the swamp, and they captured Captain Keyes. Progressing through the level, you pass by a crashed Covenant dropship, fight a few jackals and grunts, and come across an evil-looking structure. You see more jackals and grunts running out of and away from the structure while being shot at by assault rifles, which is weird itself because the Covenant thus far has shown zero sign of being scared of your average Marine, but it's made weirder by there being no one around the corner when you walk in. You take an elevator down, again fight only grunts and jackals, no elites, progress through a couple rooms and enter a tight corridor where the walls are absolutely covered in blood, suggesting that the Covenant were just completely gutted. Later on, you find a crazy Marine who shoots at you and says you aren't turning him into, quote, one of those things. Before the reveal room, one of the ramps again is painted with blood, and at this point you don't know what the heck is going on. This leads to the best cutscene of the game, where the Master Chief plugs a found footage film into his head where he watches Captain Keyes and his squad delve into the facility and eventually get attacked in the same room that you're currently in. The reveal of the Flood, from the build-up to the moment it actually happens, is one of my favorite twists in any game ever, and I envy anyone who can still play this game completely blind and experience the reveal for the first time. As you fight through the facility trying to figure out how to escape, this is an example where the rooms looking the same is actually a good thing, you come across elite combat forms and human combat forms and combat forms with guns, and all of this comes together to make the Flood something unique rather than just generic space zombies. After you manage to get out, you're greeted by Marines and you're back in the swamp. All safe, right? Nope. Your Marines get wiped out. The level actually doesn't even end on Legendary until all of your allies are dead. Whatever brief level of relief you may have had is thrown out the window because, yeah, you now know the Flood are going to stick around throughout the game. I could talk for 20 minutes just about 343 Guilty Spark and all the little details here and there, but that's already been done by Ben Plays Games, so I'll move on to the best mission in the franchise.
In the last video, he said the library was the worst level in the franchise. Now he says it's the best? Is that sarcasm or is he a big flip-flopper? Reported for misleading content.
The library, story-wise, is like Silent Cartographer, where it just pushes the plot forward rather than revealing anything major. In terms of gameplay, it does make you hate the Flood and view the Flood as an overwhelming force, so to that end it does a great job. The library has you recover the index to activate Halo. Getting it takes you to 2 betrayals and the last big reveal of the game. From the moment you've landed, you've wondered, what is Halo? You find out it's a weapon of some kind, but it doesn't get any more specific than that. Sure, it's a weapon, but what does it do? Does it fire lasers? 343 Guilty Spark has been talking about using Halo to stop the Flood, which makes a lot of sense to Master Chief, who argues with Cortana about it at first before Cortana spills the beans. Halo is a weapon to stop the Flood, but it wasn't really meant to kill the Flood itself. Halo kills all sentient life in the galaxy, so the Flood starves to death. And the story again gets flipped on its head. It goes from we need to use Halo before the Covenant do, to we need to use Halo to stop the Flood, to we gotta blow this beautiful ring world up. Which you do. You blow up a few pulse generators, punch Captain Keyes' Flood-infected head in for codes, and detonate the Pillar of Autumn's engine, which destroys the ring. In all of my years of playing this game, I think that sense of discovery and unraveling the mystery might have wore off. Landing on the ring for the first time, exploring beautiful and distinct environments, learning that Halo is a weapon, finding the Flood and learning what Halo actually is, it's an engaging story. There's goofy stuff like Captain Keyes overhearing the guards, but the high-level story of Halo Combat Evolved is very engaging. Learning about Halo and uncovering its secrets, both through the story and through gameplay, exploration, hidden details, it's great. And I love Halo 2 and Halo 3, but, with the exception of the Arbiter reveal, there's one thing those games didn't quite capture, it's that feeling. Not knowing what's around the corner. Being surprised by the story and where it takes you. Again, that's not to say I don't like the other games, because I love the other games, but this sense of mystery and discovery of being on the ring world I think is one of Halo 1's strongest attributes in comparison to its sequels. Even though I beat it more times than I can count, and it's been out almost 22 years, something I never want to completely forget about, nor do I think should be overlooked, is the experience of Halo CE as a first-time player, of unraveling the mysteries of the Halo ring.